This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Yeah, good morning.
So let's get started. So let me introduce myself, guys. Myself, Shiv Prasad. I'm currently working as a cloud and DevOps consultant, senior DevOps consultant. So training is a part-time that I do, guys, and I've been training people on various technologies like operating system like Linux, virtualization like VMware, and cloud technologies like AWS, GCP, and then DevOps. In DevOps, almost all the tools. And my expertise is more into containers, containerization, and we all are here for understanding what DevOps is. Okay, so I believe DevOps, like demo, is your session. Now you have your own questions, which you wanted to get answers for. and I'm here to answer those and clarify those um, what we call questions, all the questions, and clarify them. So I'll quickly start with a kind of a very high level overview of what DevOps is. Okay. So you understand why we are getting into DevOps and what is the purpose, why everyone is talking about this, where it is used, and all of these kind of questions. A very generic understanding of what DevOps is going to be. And then I'll take your questions, guys. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So in between, guys, I'll be asking you some questions. Just feel free to answer them. And at the end, I'll take all your questions. Open question platform.
Sure.
So let's get started. So what is DevOps, guys, from your standpoint? What do you think a DevOps is basically? Like you are here for DevOps session today, and I would just wanted to understand what is your understanding of DevOps? What do you think it is? Hello, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, DevOps is a
Yeah.
set of tools for through which we can create an environment which helps developers and testers hold the development team on wholesome to work on a particular application or a project, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and it can be used for version controls, and we can able to deploy the code in multiple environments at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of uses, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fair enough. Yeah. So you have covered some of the important points here as well. Good. Anyone else?
It
Okay.
is the combination of both the dev team and the operations team is we can call it as DevOps.
Yes. That's the right definition, by the way. So DevOps is basically a combination of development team and operations team. So dev from development and ops from operations team. So they have combined this and they have created the term called DevOps basically, guys. That's true. So the main purpose of DevOps is basically to establish collaboration between these two teams, which is development, ops, and operations. So if you look into any team, any organization, right? So the main purpose of development team is to develop the code. They are the one who is going to so the client has an idea and they are the one who is going to develop that, right? So they write code, they find the logic, and then they build a beautiful UIs for us, and then they test it finally, and then finally the code is ready. So the operations team now, once the code is ready, the operations team is responsible of deploying that code into the servers so that like people like us or end users or client can access their application. Now we are able to access our application like applications like Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, right? So how this all has started, so developers have written the code and they have tested it, they compiled it, and then finally they gave it to ops team. Now ops team is responsible of installing that application and making sure it is running continuously without any downtime. That is the whole idea of development and operations team involved. Okay, wait a moment, guys. Guys, Rambabu, you will have to, log off and log in back if you can't hear. Okay, so different people define DevOps in variety of ways. Like everybody has a different perspective, but just to talk about what is the common definition of DevOps is basically DevOps is a software engineering culture and a practice that aims at unifying software development dev and software operations ops. DevOps aims at a shorter deployment cycles, increased deployment frequency, more dependable releases in a close alignment with business objectives. So just to explain you guys, this shorter development cycles, increased deployment frequency, more dependable releases, and close alignment with business objectives. What are all this now? Let me give you a simple example so that you can correlate how does this basically work. You know, right? Uh, every like Samsung releases their own mobile phones, OnePlus releases their own mobile phone with own operating systems, and iOS, Apple releases their own phone. Usually, if you follow the news continuously, as and when they release a new phone, in couple of days or first 1 week, you see people saying a lot of problems, saying that the camera is not working, my phone is getting stuck, or it is getting heat issues, all of these things. Yeah, you might have heard, right? And gradually what happens, within no time, within 1 week of time, these vendors like Samsung or Apple or OnePlus or any phone for that matter, they will release a software patch immediately. And the moment you apply the software patch, it looks all good. Today you have a very messy, well, let's say, a UI within your phone, and you sleep and you wake up tomorrow, sometimes you get an update automatically install and you see that okay, something has changed automatically. So how are they doing it? This is what we call increased deployment frequency. That means the moment you have the software released, the following patches, the following enhancements can be quickly and fastly get updated without much delay. But if you look at the previous phones that we have, like uh, even back like 10 years, 5 years back, 6 years back, there were also smartphones which Nokia has gave us. They used to come up with one version and they died with the same version. But now you take any mobile, be it iOS or Android phone, you may be running on version 9, let's say example, and within couple of months you can update it to maybe version 11 or version 12. So that is the kind of frequency of deployment are we talking about. So in our case, we are installing our own updates manually, but in the organizations, the applications are installed by operations team. That is the whole idea, guys. That is how it works basically. This is just a beginning, guys, just to understand how the life cycle, I mean, the development basically works. Okay. So that is what the definition is. What so DevOps aims at shorter development cycles, increased deployment frequency, more dependable releases in a close alignment with business objectives. Based on the business needs and requirement, they just update the software in a shorter development cycles, and those development cycles will be deployed frequently and they get released, and then the business, they're able to meet the business requirement. So what DevOps is basically, right? DevOps is first a culture. A lot of the people, a lot of us assume that DevOps is a technology, guys, like someone has said, is a collection of tools. That's not really the definition. Okay, the tools are helping to achieve DevOps strategy, by the way, but DevOps itself is not the tools, guys. There's a lot of difference here. Okay, so DevOps is defined as a culture. What is a culture all about? This culture is all about collaboration, communication, talking to the teams, understanding the requirement. Usually, if there are any, assuming that there are few developers and administrators here, if you are a part of any of the team in your organization or a project where you do the deployments, back before DevOps, we can call it era before DevOps, era after DevOps, like this. Okay. So as a system administrators, you never get a chance to talk to the developer, because that is how the software development has been evolved, by the way. So you will never get a chance to talk to the tester automatically or directly, to talk to him and understand what they do. And testers and developers will never understand what we as a system administrators we are responsible of doing, what is that we have. Okay, so DevOps is a kind of a checkpoint to all of those not communicating to people. So the whole idea of DevOps is to collaborate, establish communication between the development team and operations team. So this culture has given the right set of practices. So how are we communicating? There are certain standards, there are certain practices through which they communicate, and they define, so they work together for the betterment, better release of cycle, and for the satisfaction of the clients and all. So that's where the DevOps has started, by the way. So DevOps is a grassroots movement by practitioners for practitioners. So that is where the evolution of DevOps have started, guys. And what usually people think, and what DevOps is not basically is, see, DevOps is not a tools, like I said, but tools are essential to success in DevOps. So we use tools as a media, or we use tools as a entity for us to get developed or get successful in approaching or in applying the DevOps strategies, guys. Okay, DevOps is not a standard. So we usually have certain standards saying that, hey, now you want to build something, so this is a procedure that you need to follow: step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So these are the procedures that you have to follow. So there are no such standards in DevOps. So if I am a pharmaceutical client, let's say example, and I can use DevOps and build my own culture for my own purpose. And someone from IT industry, someone from a software development, they don't have to follow my strategies. They can define their own strategies, they can define their own tools. Okay, so everyone can adopt DevOps in such a way that they need it for. So there are no standards. Okay, there are no specific strategies that you need to follow, but there are certain best practices that we follow, but it's those are not mandatory, guys. So what best suits me is what I'm going to do. What best suits for others, they're going to do it. But there is no a line saying that okay, everyone has to follow this specific rule and all. So it is not a standard either, neither it is a product. Okay, I cannot deliver DevOps to you as a kind of, hey, here is my here is a DevOps product that I'm giving you. No, we cannot do that as well. And moreover, DevOps is not a job title. Okay, but today all the openings that we see, and people say that, even I said, if you remember, I said DevOps consultant. Okay, so there is no such roles, but we are just following. The DevOps is not a job title either, but we are just following it. So we are going to talk about basically the culture, the practices, the tools that we use here. Okay, what is the DevOps culture basically? So how many of you heard about Agile before, guys, here in this session? Or is anyone part of Agile teams here in your
Yes.
organizations?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any like, would you like to talk anything about Agile? What do you think Agile is? Just some points.
So like Agile is about like when we don't have any clear-cut requirements or the how the software or the development need to be. So we need to develop it part by part so that it will be easier to make the changes and the deploy as well.
Yes. So let me give you a scenario, guys. Yes, whatever said is true, but let me explain with a good example so that you understand the concept here. Let's say you all know, right? Um, Code developer writes the code, and the code has to be tested in a simple language. What tests they do, how they do it, let's not bother about it. Okay. So developer has to write the code and it has to be tested. Okay. So the test has to pass. There are certain criteria that we call, and those testers has to pass, by the way. Okay. But now imagine developer has written 1,000 lines of code. Okay. Developer has written 1,000 lines of code, and now I am going to test 1,000 lines of code as a tester. Now, when I'm testing the 1,000 lines of code, the first 900 lines have executed properly. There is no issue at all. But I am getting a test case problem on the last module that they have developed, which is, let's say, 100th or the 1,000th module or whatever it is. Now, that problem is because of the first module problem. The first module is developed somewhere in first 100 lines. Now that means if I have to change this case, I will have to modify all my 1,000 lines of code, which is a time consuming process, which is a traditional method, guys. But with Agile, it is like, why do you want to write 100 lines of code in one single line? let's divide this. Let's divide into small chunks. Let us concentrate on small modules. First, I am going to write only 100 lines of code, and I'll get that tested first. Once that tested up passed, then I'll go to the next 100 lines. Then I will test it. Once they both are tested, now I'll combine those 200 lines and underline 200 lines, and I'm going to test. If I get any problem, then I'll fix them first, and then I'll get into the third one. So Agile is all about performing the software development in a small chunks. And during this small chunks development, you get to involve with other teams like testers, database engineers, architects, okay, and system engineers, operations team. You get to talk to all of them and understand, like, for in order for you to test this 100 lines of code and deploy it, what is that you need. So that is what we're talking about, collaboration here, guys. Okay, so Agile is software development process, by the way. So there are other software development process available like waterfall, V model, RAD model, which we'll discuss in the later session. But the reason why we are talking about Agile here is that both Agile and DevOps go hand in hand. Wherever you are implementing DevOps, there will be Agile, and wherever you have a Agile, there will definitely come DevOps in future as well. Even if you're not using it now, in going forward in the future down the line, you will have DevOps implemented. That is what this DevOps and Agile both go hand in hand. Agile seeks to develop software in small, frequent cycles in order to deliver functionality to customers quickly and quickly respond to the changing business needs. And DevOps and Agile often go hand in hand. Okay. So all of this, okay, guys. So if you look into DevOps now, DevOps is started somewhere at around 2007 or 8, I believe. Okay, and but even before that, also there is a software development. People were developing the softwares. There were applications available, right? But how the journey of DevOps all started? Okay, there is short story which I'll tell you in a, and I'll just walk you through the steps. I'm not going to read all of this. This is a story, by the way. So there is a guy who is Patrick DeBois, okay, who is a techno manager. What is a techno manager, guys, by the way? Anyone? Whom do we call as a
No,
techno manager?
like who is having like technical knowledge on managers? Yeah.
Yes. So sometimes we get frustrated, isn't it? Most of us, you might be in such situation where you try to explain something to your manager and he's not a technical guy, he's a functional guy, and he doesn't understand, and he tries to, you know, challenge your skills, and he tries to tell something which is not possible practically, but he wants you to do that. We might have been such situations, right? But this Patrick DuBois is a guy who has extensive knowledge in both development as well as operations. He knows how the development would happen. He himself is a software developer, and he also know how the deployment would happen, in the sense how a system administrator would work. He know how the Linux operating system works. You know how the load balancers. You know how the deployment works, and all of those things. Okay, so he is part of a team. This Patrick DuBois is a part of a team, and he's a manager. And every day when he comes offices, he has mails, couple of mails. So mails from developers and mails from operations saying that developer says that, okay, we have written a code properly, but the problem is with the operations team. Their servers are not configured properly. And operations team says that, hey, we have a good servers. You see, you see the memory spikes, you see the CPU spikes, you disk IOPS, everything is normal. The problem is with your code, because developer doesn't know how operations work and operation team doesn't know how development would work. So that is where this guy Patrick DuBois, who is a techno manager, most of his daytime or office time is consumed to resolve these conflicts between development team and operations team. Okay, then he got frustrated, and with that frustration, at the same time, this, if you see, agile software development was gaining popularity. People are moving from traditional waterfall models to this agile models, and there were a lot of conferences happening and all. Okay, so this Patrick, so what does DuBois did is that Patrick DuBois did is that he created a team. He was frustrated, he created a team which has developers in it and a team which has operations team in it. That means instead of treating these two as two different teams, he just picked up as a test case, as a POC kind of thing. He has picked some developers from the development team, and he has picked some technical operations team, and he combined and he called it DevOps team. And the work that is handled by this DevOps team, he realized that there are no conflicts. They are able to achieve their end goals faster than those two different teams when they are working separately. Then the same thing when he went into a Agile conference in 2008 along with his friend Andrew Schaffer. Okay, they talked to the managers there, and every manager who were in that meeting said the same thing, saying that most of our time got consumed because of these conflicts. We are resolving conflicts and like that and all. And that is where, and they gave a talk, they talk about vector conference and all. And at October 30, 2009, Patrick hosted the first DevOps day in Ghent, Belgium, where they talked for both devs and operations team. So that is when, from 2009 onwards, and this was the first hashtag that they started in Twitter, which is hashtag DevOps, which was happened on 31st 2009. It should not be 30 by the way, right? Sorry, it should be 30. Okay, the day 30 to 31st 2009. It is like in between 30 and 31st 2009 October, in between 2 days. Okay, so that is where the DevOps has started. If you look ahead, hardly this DevOps is 11 years old, and there is still a lot of scope for people to develop. So, and we started hearing about DevOps from past 5 to 6 years. Okay, and down the lane, next 10-15 years, undoubtedly everyone has to use DevOps now. We'll see why and all how. So DevOps grow as an organic grassroots movement all over the world and spawned many tools support that practices value DevOps. So to 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 get this DevOps built, then there are a lot of tools that came into existence. Lot of hundreds and thousands of open source tools are available as of today in the market to support for this DevOps strategies and all. So today, the DevOps movement has not stopped growing since 2009 and is no longer a small niche movement. It has since becomes a mainstream, spawned a large variety of tools, completely changed the IT industry forever. So the way we are looking at software development today is not what we have been achieving from past many years in software development, guys. It has did a tremendous change in the way we deploy things, in the way we handle the code, in the way we monitor our applications and all. Everything has changed with the DevOps. So the main goals, basically, let's talk about the operations team, like the problems first and the solution that we have. So DevOps culture is about collaboration between dev and ops. What is this culture? What is this collaboration? Aren't they talking before? They might be talking before to each. It's not that talking over it, I mean, having a snacks or a break. No, that's not the thing. Here we are talking about in terms of development, in terms of operations. These guys had never chance to talk to each other at all. So under the traditional separation between dev and ops have a different opposing goals. The goals are what? For development, it is a speed. It's like developers always work towards fixing the problems, bringing up the new enhancements. It's like the same example I told you, right? So you have installed some patch on your mobile phone and you complain that after installing the patch or upgrade, it is not working fine. Maybe your camera clarity is not okay, or it is not working, some applications are not working. You might have heard a lot of this in your news or from your friends, because their their job is to, if there is any problem, they have to fix the problem, as well as they have to develop the software for new enhancements. You have seen WhatsApp, right? So initially we have started WhatsApp for just sending messages. Later they gave us calls. Later they gave us video calls, and now they are giving conference video calls. So day by day they are trying to improvise the software for betterment and for a lot of people to get used to it and all. And what are operations now? Operations are these guys' responsibility is to make sure their services are up and running. So let's say example now again. So we all use Facebook, okay? And so developers responsibilities, let's say tomorrow there is maybe a Dasra coming up, and so the development team wants to show the Facebook page as if like something with some theme of Dasra, let's say example, and they developed it, but operations team doesn't really bother about what theme you are using. Operations team is responsible of what, making sure that the Facebook page is up and running all the time. That means whenever you log in, it should give us a login prompt. Otherwise, if there is a problem when you log in to say that Facebook unable to reach Facebook, you might have seen this for some websites, page not found. In the sense, the server is down in the backend. So whose responsibility is that to make sure the server is up and running? It's the operations guy's responsibility to make sure your server is up and running round the clock. And development team responsibility is to work about speed. And that is the reason operations team always worry about applying a new patch. Most of the time what happens is that when they apply a new patch, 90% of the time they are worried because the patch might fail. If the patch fails, the application will be down. If the application is down, end users are going to raise a request. Your manager is going to talk to the operations team asking them, hey, why the server is down? There will be a lot of pressure on them. And these are not handled by development team. Now that is where the blame game comes. The operations team said that our servers were working pretty fine before this version was upgraded. So after the upgrade, the problem has started, and development team says that no, we have tested our code. It was working pretty fine on our local PCs. It also should work on our systems. It is a problem with your physical servers or virtual, so whatever it is. So this is the blame game that they play during this traditional method of software development. But what has changed with DevOps is that now they both have the same goal, which is I want to get the software developed in a speedy manner, as well as I also need a stability. In that case, now development has to understand how operations work, and operations team has to understand how development works, so that this blame game would be stopped. That is the whole idea behind DevOps and collaboration, guys. So DevOps culture is about collaboration between dev and ops. With DevOps, dev and ops work together and share the same goal, speed and stability. Now, by hook or crook, they will have to work together and make sure they are able to deliver the changes in a faster manner, as well as those changes are stable enough and achieve stability as well. The goal of DevOps culture is basically with DevOps and Ops are playing on the same team. They both are now same team. We are not treating them as two different teams. It's just DevOps team, by the way. So Dev and Ops share the same goal. And these methods will make what? Fast time to market. You are able to reach out to market with new changes frequently and few production failures. So when you both are working together, and the production failures also will be reduced automatically, and even if there is a failure, you know how to recover it back within no time, which is immediate recovery from failures. So DevOps is about um, dev and ops working together. So we whenever we are talking about DevOps, guys, you will be hearing this term lot many times: working together, collaboration and all. In DevOps culture, dev cares about stability as well as speed, and ops cares about speed as well as stability. The traditional roles of developer and operations engineers can even become blurred under DevOps. This is where most of us get confused. Hey, and now I am part of a DevOps. Should I know development? Hey, I was a developer, but should I know operations now? Not really, guys. We have our own responsibilities when we are working on it. Your skill set of system administration will remain the same, and developer skill set of becoming or writing a code and logic will remain the same. They will not change. But the only difference is that you should be knowing what each of the other team is responsible of doing and what do they do, and how do they do is what you should know. Instead of throwing code over the wall, dev and ops work together to create and use tools and process that support both speed and stability. DevOps recognizes that dev and ops are more powerful when they are together. So just to understand what this DevOps is, let us understand the traditional methods, and then we'll get into the DevOps method to understand how it works. So if you look in the traditional silo, the traditional method, so there is a wall in between, which means developer doesn't know who is a QA team, and QA team doesn't know who are developers and who are operations. So developer write the code, they just share the code to the QA. It's like throwing over the wall. It's like, hey, we are done with our code now. It's your responsibility to take care of it. And QA does testing, quality analysis of the code. It verifies the quality of the code and all. And hey, boss, what have you written the code? It's not up to the mark. It's not meeting up to our standards. Just modify it. And this process continues. So these guys will blame on this, these guys will blame on this, and that's how it works. So dev write codes, throw it over the wall to QA. Code bounces back and forth between dev and QA as QA discovers problems and devs fix them. Finally, it is ready for production. Once it is ready for production, so Q and dev throw the code over the wall to operations. Now, boss, we both are handle our things. Now it's your turn. Now the operations has to handle the deployment. So now operations say there is a problem. Ops throw it back over the wall to dev. Say that, hey, we are not able to install it. There is a compatibility issues, and our servers are not ready to run this. Our operating systems are we don't have licensing. This kind of issues they do. So now the problem is coming because developer for developers, QA team and operation team is black box. Black box is like they don't know what is inside it. They don't know how do they work. And the same thing for other two teams as well. So each group's domain is a black box to other groups. Our systems are fine. It's your code problem, but the code worked on my machine. The developer says that, hey, I tested it locally. It is the problem with your machines, and it's not problem with the code. So the previous code is working fine, but the new latest version that you written is not working. The problem is not with the servers, but problem is with the code. This is the blame game that I was talking about right from the beginning, guys. And what went wrong in traditional methods is dev and ops are black boxes to each other, which led to finger pointing. Because ops is a black box, devs don't really trust them, and the ops doesn't really trust dev. Dev and ops have different priorities, which pits them against each other. Now, operations team say, hey, I'm not going to work on this code because if I do this, my actual production will be down, and I'll be in soup now. So I want to do it. Okay. And ops view devs as a breaking stability. So it's like everything is working fine now. Are you really sure if I apply this? I think this is going to screw up. I don't trust you. This is what operations team's mindset will always be, guys. And dev sees ops as an obstacle to deliver their code. Even if they want to work together, dev is measured by delivering features. Like, hey, what development is doing, sir? I'm working on this specific feature. I'm working on this specific feature, which means developing changes. Ops is measured by uptime. So irrespective of failures, your server should run. And but changes are bad for stability. And downside of traditional silos are black boxes leads to finger pointing. Lengthy process means slow time to market. Lack of automation means things like builds and deployments are inconsistent, and it takes longer time to identify and fix the problem. So that is the reason if you look into the traditional methods, the software developers, if we have any, they used to develop a software for years and years they used to work. But now today when we are using DevOps, the softwares are being developed in 20 days, 30 days, 90 days. Your software will be ready and it will be available in the market as well, guys. So today you talk to a client asking them for provisioning of a new infrastructure, new application, and within next 90 days or 120 days your code is ready. That is the kind of speed that we are talking about when we talk about this DevOps. So see, now when we talk about DevOps, all of these guys are part of one team now, which is DevOps, and they build the code, they do the integration testings, they do test cases, and finally they deploy. So devs write code, and code commit triggers automated build, integrations, and tests. QA can get their hands on it almost immediately. And once it is ready, kick off an automated deployment to production. So, so the operations team is not going to handle the deployments manually. They are going to automate it by using various tools. And developers, when they develop the code, it goes to integration server does compilation, it does testing, it does building of the code. If the compilation has failed, the development team will immediately get a mail saying that your code compilation has failed. If the test cases are failing, they would immediately get a message saying that your code has failed for test cases. Quality analysis, I am also going to verify the quality analysis of the code. I will do the vulnerability scanning of the code. If any of this is not missing, the code will never get into the next stage. So the developer will get a continuous feedback, and they are going to fix that feedback based on the logs, and it processes continuous. Okay, so that is what the beauty that you get along with the DevOps guys. Since everything is automated, it is much easier to deploy while keeping things stable. Deployments can occur much more frequently, getting features into hands of customers faster. So the latest deployment broke something in production. So let's take a scenario where you did this deployment and something went wrong. So you don't have to worry because you already have the previous latest stable. You just revert back the code. Once you revert back the code, the whole good configuration state would be up and running without any downtime, without take much of the time. Fortunately, automated monitoring notified the team immediately, and the team does a rollback by deploying the previous working version, fixing the problem quickly. An hour later, the dev team was able to deploy a fixed version of the new code. So monitoring also plays a very major role here. What went right here in DevOps is Dev and Ops work together to build a robust way of changing code quickly and reliably. Both Dev and Ops work together to prioritize both speed of delivery and stability. Automated lead to consistency. When we are doing things manually multiple times, there are high chances that you might do it wrong. But when it is automated, it's the scripts, it's the application service, the configuration management servers which take care of deployment, and there is no chances of doing it wrong. Building, testing, and deploying happened the same way every time. Building, testing, and deploying happened much more quickly and more often. Good monitoring plus the swift deployment process ensured problems could be fixed even before user notified them. So dev and ops work together upfront to build good process. Even though a code change caused problem, user experienced a little or no downtime. Why do DevOps? Happier teams and ultimately the happier customers. So tech employees tend to be happier doing DevOps than under traditional silos. More time involving and less time putting out fires, blame games and all. And devs don't feel like they have to fight to get their work out there. So they don't have to do the follow up. They don't have to blame other teams. And operations people don't have to fight dev to keep the system stable. Happier customers are like DevOps lets you give customers the features they want quickly, and you don't have to sacrifice stability to do it. So this is the overall, I mean, at a high level, what DevOps is all, guys. Okay, like any questions, anyone here?
Hi Shiva, this is Venkat.
Yeah,
Can you
Venkat.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for your elaborate explanation. And I missed the starting part. I would like to know only one thing. The coding developing is a separate coding, right? Compared than other, if you have any other coding. For example, if you have other different languages in the throughout the world, right? And
Yeah.
do you have a separate logic, or do we need to go with any logic will support this
So
logical code?
no,
Yeah.
no. See, you use any code, be it a .NET code, be it a Python, be it Java, like you said, hell lot of coding technologies are available out in the world. So we are not really bothered about the code. We are not really bothered about the logic, but the process. What DevOps does, it defines a process. That means every
Okay.
code that gets developed has to be compiled, right? And has to be tested and has to be packaged and has to be deployed. So this is what we are automating by using DevOps.
Okay. Got you.
Now the same process can be used for Java code. The same can be used for .NET, Go, or any language, Node.js, any language for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. You said like DevOps with the Agile is going with the hands in hands, right? Yeah, I mean like it doesn't work with the V model or the waterfall model.
No, no, it works. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It works, but when we are working with V model or RAD model, waterfall model, we are actually doing again the old silos, right?
Okay.
So the agile is like, why to do a huge project, wait for that, write the coding for whole 1 year and then test it. Rather, this agile, what does it do? So you develop something. Let me put this way. Let me just get you a pen. So let's say I am developing a WhatsApp application. You all know what a WhatsApp application is, right? And in WhatsApp, there are certain modules. The moment you open it, let's say you see some three boxes in it. Maybe chat, calls or phones, and let's say status. So the V model or the waterfall model, and you see a lot of messages, the backend theme, the UI, and all of these things. So if you look at, let's say, this is a module, this is the application, this is the whole application that I have. Okay. So if you consider here, if I take an example of, let's say, first I want to develop a call, so I will call it as module 1, maybe module 2, module 3, and finally the UI and all module 4. So in the V model or RAD model, the way it works is that they first write the code for entire modules, module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, and they start developing. So they first gather the requirements and they take a sign off, and then they do a coding and they take a sign off, and they do testing, they take a sign off. Whereas with Agile, how does it work is, before we write code for all these modules, they'll first write code for module 1. They compile it, they test it, they package it, and then finally they deploy it. Deploy in the sense, they are not deploying in production, by the way, they are deploying it in test case, test environment or dev environment. So if there is any problem in testing, the code is again reverted back and does the testing. If there is any problem with compilation, the same thing will happen. If there is any problem with what we call deployment packaging, they do the same thing. And finally, they get deployed. Now this is okay. And they showcase this specific feature to the client. And when client is showcasing this, he might give some feedback. So initially, you might have seen a lot of memes in the internet, guys, saying that what client wants, what our manager understands, and what developer develops, right? You might have seen these memes basically. So here, that means now you are showcasing the end product, the feel and look of this to a client now. Now client will give you certain feedbacks. You take those feedbacks and you start working on module 2. You go the same process, test, package, and deploy. And now when you're showcasing, you are going to showcase both module 1 along with module 2 enhancements. And finally, you'll work on module 3. So now, again, you go the same process. That means for every chunk of code, every chunk of logic that you're working, you are undergoing all of this. and at the same time you are taking the feedback of the clients, and based on those feedbacks you are modifying the code and showcasing him. That means at any point of time your client is aware of what you are doing, you're showcasing them, and you are improvising your logic and code here. Now here, let's say when something is not working, like finally the code is developed, the code is deployed, but now the problem is with module 3. So he don't have to worry about module 2 and module 1, right? Because the problem is only with module 3. It is very easy for him to identify it is this build which is causing the problem. He can only modify this specific code, and then he will be able to fix it. That is what Agile does. The same thing is achieved in V model or waterfall model or RAD model as well, but in a different way. That is what we call Agile. We do the larger work in smaller chunks, and every chunk is compiled, every chunk is tested, and every chunk is deployed, and every chunk is kind of we maintain the artifact of that specific chunk. So which is very easy for us to revert back, and easy for us to fix the problems and issues. Got it?
Yeah, got it. And one more thing, Shiva, and in this demo, like we have discussed only with the DevOps one, why wouldn't we discuss about the cloud also, like overview?
So basically, logically speaking, DevOps has got nothing to do with cloud. Okay, so cloud is just a platform for us. So you have the cloud now. Cloud is just a platform where you create your servers, your application servers, your DB servers, okay, maybe your DevOps server such as Jenkins server, your version controlling server, your deployment servers. So the cloud is only giving us the platform, whereas the concept of DevOps could be achieved on a physical servers on your on-premise as well. It can be achieved in VMware environment. It could be achieved in cloud, be it a public cloud or be it a private cloud. And when we talk about public cloud, it could be AWS, it could be Azure, it could be GCP, it could be anything, OpenStack, VMware cloud. Okay, so for DevOps, cloud is just a platform for us, guys. It is not mandatory. So when we are learning DevOps, yes, I'll have to walk you through the cloud concepts, because ultimately we are going to create servers and you should know where the servers are being created and all. We will discuss about that. But when we are talking whole and soul about DevOps, we don't need cloud at all. It's just a platform. Got it?
Yeah. So like we are going to see like we have like in Amazon we have different services, right? Like we are going to discuss only with the like AWS services only with respect to DevOps or in depth with the AWS.
No, we are going to discuss the services with respect to DevOps only. So a separate AWS session is available where we talk about the complete in-depth of AWS services. But in this session, in the DevOps session, we will be covering only the services with respect to DevOps.
Yeah, okay. Like Shiva, like I am not from the dev side, or like I'm from the QA side. So if you are going to teach in a way like even irrespective of the background or not.
Yes, see, I mean, when we are talking about DevOps, we don't really bother if this DevOps course basically, we don't really bother if you're a developer or a QA or tester. We are going to build a complete DevOps strategy. That's it. And within this strategy, you can understand where your QA falls into, and developers can understand where DevOps development comes into, and operations team can understand where the operations fall into. So we are going to build a complete CI/CD pipeline.
Yeah. And like, can you please suggest, like, if you think, like, if you see, like, DevOps, developers always look at the code development side, and the testers always look at the testing side, right? Like, can you give any suggestions, like, what the DevOps actually looks like, what are the DevOps engineer like looks need to look at it?
So basically, I mean, see, everything has its own stage. So first they might be writing a code here. So code is maintained in subversioning or SCM. Examples that include Git, Bitbucket, code commit. All of these are called as version controlling tools. Okay, where we are going to store our code and all. Once the developer commits the code, it is maintained in centralized repositories, and those repositories are these servers: Git, Bitbucket, and code commit. And there are many GitLab. There are so many. Once our code is done, the other important thing that comes is integration. As the name says, integration is that you are going to integrate your code now with lot of other components. More mainly we use Jenkins here. Okay, or let me not put integration, let me not put integration or Jenkins. Integration in the sense we are going to compile the code and build package, okay, and do a QA, quality analysis, do a testing, and what else? QA, compile, build, package, quality analysis, test, and then yeah, it also can do release, but release is separately handled by a separate team. So let me mark it with a different color. Okay. Okay. Now you see the integration is so integration is now going to compile, build, package, quality analysis, test, and release. Now there could be a lot of testing, like the testing. We do manual testing, regression testing, right? QA testing. A lot many testings are available, and quality analysis, like whether the code is good, it is properly configured, does it have any our password secrets available, do we have the duplicate lines, are the loopings okay, or the length of the code is okay. We do all of those things. Packaging, we have different packagings, right? If it is a Java code, we do it a var or .NET, we have different thing, Docker images package, all of those things. Build, so ultimately the moment you build it, then only you will get an end product. And compilation of code, this is all earlier we used to do it manually, but now we are doing it in an automated manner by using tools. So what are the tools that we have in place for doing this, achieving these things? Is undoubtedly Jenkins is most widely used service, which is an integration tool. Apart from Jenkins, we have TeamCity, Circle CI, okay, Bamboo, and from AWS standpoint, from Azure standpoint also, we have a lot of tools as well. But these are most widely used and all. So Jenkins is undoubtedly the most widely used tool. We call it as an integration tool. Jenkins is nothing but a integration tool. Okay. Now, once this is done, the next thing is that, so you will also do, like, here you will integrate with a lot of tools, guys, like Jira ticketing system for notifications, email servers for sending you mails, and log servers for analyzing the logs, and then visualization, like the code quality, we use Sonar Cube. There are a lot of, like, each of this has different tool repositories, all of these things. And next thing is deployment. Okay, and configuration management. I should call as configuration management and deployment, but that's okay. So I'm going to put this in a single term. So deployment and configuration management. Once the code is packaged and we are doing a release here, so basically the deployment is handled by different teams again. I mean, in the sense, different servers. Earlier, we used to do a manual deployment. So the developer says, hey, we updated the code. The code is in the Artifactory repository, be it Nexus or S3 or anything. And from there, we just get those var file. Example, mostly people know Java, so I'm referring to Java var file, and they put it on a Tomcat servers and all. But the same thing has to be done on 100 Tomcat servers. You have to do some changes or code changes to a load balancer. You have to write something, so you cannot do manually, right? So that is where the configuration management tools comes into picture. So what are the configuration management tools that we have? Ansible, Chef,
Puppet.
Puppet, and Salt Stack. There are so many, guys. Okay, these are most widely used for a deployment. Like, most of the teams are still doing the deployments manually. Your Jenkins server also can do deployments, by the way, but that's not its purpose is only integration. So we can use one tool for doing a lot of activities, but then we will be overcoming their actual things, what they do and all. So for a deployment, we use Spinnaker, and then we use like Amazon Code Deploy. But I'm not able to write. Spinnaker, IBM Code Deploy, and then we have AWS Code Deploy. There are different tools, by the way, and we use those tools for automatic deployment and all. And where are we deploying now? Where are we deploying all of this? We need an infrastructure to deploy. So I'm going to draw this here. So when we talk about infrastructure, we are talking about the same thing. It could be running on on-prem physical servers. It could be cloud, AWS, Azure, GCP. It could be containers like Docker, and orchestration tools, container orchestration tools such as Kubernetes, OpenShift, Swarm. There are so many. Okay, so the code that is developed and built now can be deployed on any of this infrastructure. So you should also know infrastructure. And how are we doing this? How are we monitoring all of this? You need a monitoring solutions as well. So monitoring also plays a very major role here. So here comes the monitoring solutions. So there are a hell lot of monitoring tools. So many tools are available, and it's up to you. Just you need to understand how the monitoring works basically. Now there are a lot of open source tools available. Prometheus, Grafana, and there are these are open source tools, Prometheus, Grafana. And apart from this, we have like Datadog, Amazon CloudWatch. Okay, there are so many. So when we say DevOps now, all of this stacks comes into picture, guys. Now everyone has their own responsibility. So if you see here now, till this part, oh, sorry, how do I do that? How do I revert back? Undo. Okay, if you see here, these things are mostly handled by your administrators, sysadmins. So here the sysadmins is responsible of installations, configurations, any enhancements, and making sure they are up and running. Again, here as well, the roles will vary. So that depends on the organization that you're working for. There might be a separate AWS team, there might be separate Azure team, there might be separate Docker team, there might be separate Kubernetes team, a separate monitoring team. And these tools, people who write this Ansible configuration, Chef configuration might be different. People who work on the deployment might be different. But you should be knowing, as a DevOps engineer now, you should know this entire stack, guys. The whole process, where your software repository is, where the integration is happening, how what kind of test cases are coming up, and how the code is being released. You as a engineer, that is DevOps engineer, you should be knowing all of this. That is what a DevOps role is. But if some test cases are failing, DevOps engineer has got nothing to do. The test engineer will take care of it. If your code is not building, it's not your responsibility. It's something where developer has to take care why the code is not being built. Okay, compile is not working, you as system administrator, you will not do anything. Get my point? So everyone has their own specific roles, but the big picture of DevOps is this. And people use different tool, different combination of tools. They use different methods of deployment, and they use blue green deployments, they use canary deployments. You should be knowing all of this. So you should know the entire ecosystem, and you will be part of some part of that ecosystem when you're actually working in the organizations. Clear?
Yeah. And in this part of training, whether we are going to use any development like coding like Python or something.
No, see, that's what I told you, right? We will not be using any coding here. Like if you talk about Ansible, Ansible has their own coding.
Okay.
Okay, when we talk about Docker, Docker uses its own language. Like Kubernetes, the Kubernetes uses its own language for manifest and all. Those things we'll be working on. Python, we will not be using here.
Yeah.
So every tool that we work, like if you talk about Jenkins, we create Jenkins pipeline. We will write a code, but that's not Python. So it
Yeah.
uses its own declarative language like that.
Hi. Um, okay. As you said, like, okay, there are multiple tools here, and for each and every level, like code integration and that. So, are we going to discuss any of these tools as part of this course?
Yes, I should be talking about these tools like uh, here we talk about Git and with these three, like it's all work on Git technology, so it should be good. It should be work. And here we talk about Jenkins. We talk about Ansible, and for deployment, we won't be doing this, but we do the deployment via Jenkins itself. But if want, we can use this code deploy, AWS code deploy. And apart from this, there is one more tool that we look into, Terraform. And here we'll be talking about AWS, Docker, and Kubernetes. and here Prometheus and Grafana. Yes, these are the tools that will be working. Here it is Ansible. Like from each category, we will be discussing the most widely used tools in the market.
What is the total tenure of this course? And do you have any real-time project
The
on this?
entire thing is going to be real time only. Okay, the whole process that we are going to do. So project is all about understanding the whole CI/CD pipeline. So in the interview, guys, so in the first 5 minutes, they are going to ask you about the project, like what is your project and all, and then they get deep into the tools. So our course is intended for you to understand the whole CI/CD process. Okay, and like I said, it's not a specific standard that we do. So okay, so if I am doing something in DevOps in my own way, it's not necessary that others have to follow the same thing. So keeping that in mind, when you go to interview, they know that you have done something different and they might have something different in the interview, so they more focus on the individual tools. So rather on the whole, you cannot just tell them this is what I do and this is what I know. So the whole idea of this course is to give you a complete knowledge of this entire CI/CD, which is continuous integrations and continuous deployment, how it works, and also mastering each of these tools so that you are good to clear any interview and work in any environments. So you will be doing all hands-on here. You will build everything right from the scratch, and you will have the whole environment set up already. You will do it by yourself so that you understand the whole flow.
What is the tenure of this course like? Will it be 45 days?
Somewhere around, like, it will take 1.5 month, 6 weeks.
Okay.
Anything else, guys?
Basically, yeah, basically I'm from QA background and I would like to change my skill to DevOps after this one. So, can I get a support on creating the resume by modifying my existing projects into this DevOps
Yeah, we
associate or
can do that. So we'll be sharing you some sample resumes. You can create. I'll tell you at the end of the course. Again, the whole motto is not only just for me is just to deliver the class and leave, guys. So ultimately, you should get jobs into it, right? That's the whole motto, that you will be joining the sessions and all. So I'll be guiding you how to create resumes, and on each topic, every time when we talk about a topic, I'll be trying to cover the interview questions that you can expect. Okay, and how do you need to answer them on each and every topic. So by end of the course, you should be knowing the entire pattern of how the interview process is going to be, what are the tools that you need to work on and everything. So all you have to do is the practice. Those who are from non-technical background or those who are from different streams, you might feel uncomfortable working on these tools initially, because most of these tools, all of these tools, not most, all of these tools we are going to build on Linux. So Linux plays a very major role here. If you are comfortable in Linux, you will be able to enjoy the course. But if you are new to Linux, that becomes so hard. You might not, sometimes you feel frustrated while working on it. So that is the reason we are also covering some Linux topics for you to make comfortable of what Linux is, how do we connect to it, and how do we work on it, and all of those things. So Linux plays a very major role, and Linux is also important here. But once you master the skill of like working on commands and understanding the concepts, and DevOps is very simple, guys. So but the only thing is that you'll have to spend some extra time. If you don't have a skill set of Linux, you'll have to spend some extra time, but anybody can get into it. Now this is the right time for you to shift your career and into AW. If you're into any stream, irrespective of what you are doing, if you're in IT and you want to get into a new assignments or new roles, and this is the right time, guys. AWS and DevOps is the right approach. There are a lot of openings out there. People are, they're paying good enough. The pay scale and the job roles are very good.
And what is that? What is the market? How many years of experience currently market is looking for, and especially in DevOps?
So see, relevant years of experience is what they are looking. Relevant 2.5, 3 years. Now let's say you have 5 years of total experience into a different domain. You will have to showcase your profile in such a way that you have a relevant of 2 years of experience in AWS and DevOps. That is a minimum that they are expecting.
And you're talking about AWS, but here we are going to discuss only DevOps, right? And is it going to cover AWS also, or that we need to learn separately?
Like I said, uh, DevOps, see, these are very lengthy courses, right? In 6 weeks of time, I cannot justify AWS if I'm talking about AWS, and I won't be able to justify DevOps as well. So, in the DevOps section, we will be talking only on DevOps completely. But in order to build this infrastructure, so now everything is a VM. Like everything that we do, we need a servers. We need some servers here. So these servers we will be using from Amazon. So we will use AWS as a platform here. So only the services which are needed for us to work on this DevOps is what we are going to see in AWS. So if you want to master like AWS and look into all complete services of AWS, we have a separate section that we have done with demo yesterday, and tomorrow we'll be starting that as well. Like we have like 6 to 7 a.m. IST, we have AWS, and 7 to 8:30 minimum 1.5 hour for DevOps. This is how we are starting from tomorrow. So in the market now, having this both skill set is mandatory. Again, if you look into AWS will take minimum for me like 5 to 6 weeks of time, and DevOps also take the same thing. So if I'm trying to cover AWS in DevOps, I cannot justify both of these courses. They are two very lengthy courses.
Hi, Ziva.
Yeah.
As of now, I work as a database administrator, and my
Hmm.
friends are suggesting me learn Azure or AWS
Hmm.
or DevOps. So for me, for shifting from database to another domain like Azure or this one, DevOps, which one is better to me?
I mean, a choice between Azure and DevOps is what you are asking, or a choice between AWS and DevOps. See, now
AWS and DevOps.
both go hand in hand, guys. Right? So that is how the job market has become. So see, there are certain roles which says that cloud ops. Okay. So where you don't need any DevOps there, you know cloud ops in the sense the day-to-day activities that you do on AWS or any cloud for that matter. You won't find that roles now. Every role that you find now is what they're looking for, a Superman, a He-Man, or you call Iron Man, whatever it is, where they should have skill set of everything. So I cannot just draw a line and say that okay, this is what you know and you'll get a job. But for the experience that I have, that I've been into this thing, is that they want someone who is good at AWS, as well as they want someone who can handle DevOps as well, is what the profiles are mostly into. It's like, again, just like I said, Agile and DevOps go hand in hand, and DevOps tools and AWS also go hand in hand. Reason, everybody is hosting their infrastructure in cloud. You might not be working when you're part of a project, you might not be working on AWS completely, but you should know the concepts. In the to pass to the interview, they ask you both. That's how the situation is currently in the market.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sure, like this is my from the last question. Like AWS with DevOps is the job for the looking for it, or we need to learn it.
I'm sorry, your voice, a lot of disturbance. I couldn't hear you.
1 second.
Hello?
Shiva, can you hear me now? Hello, Shiva?
Yeah,
Shiva,
I can hear you now.
yeah, like I'm looking for the AWS DevOps. So, like, is it AWS DevOps only cloud platform that is AWS is sufficient for that, or we need to learn any extra cloud platform?
So if you know one cloud platform, you are good enough to work in other cloud platforms.
Okay, you mean to say that they're similar, right?
Yes, similar.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, Shiva.
Yep. So guys, any more questions?
Sir, what level of Linux expertise is needed? You mean basics
Sharif,
or?
your voice is very low.
Yeah, let me ping, sir. Sorry.
Hello, Shiva.
Yeah.
This is Krishna speaking. So, where do you work?
I cannot tell where I work now, right? But I'll tell you at the end of the course.
It's okay. And I'm an AWS faculty from past 4 years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. You have any questions now?
I don't have any questions. That's what.
Okay. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the session.
Yes. Yes. And I'm a certified faculty, and I'll teach. I've conducted many batches also.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good to know.
Yeah.
Sir, my question is like, what level of Linux expertise is good to go?
Sharif, again, your voice is low, but I could hear something. You're asking like how much of Linux is what you should know, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me explain you this in a different way, by the way, guys. So I call it survival Linux. You know, Linux is very huge. In the sense, uh, there is a lot of concepts in Linux, but we don't need all of those concepts, right? Like, let's say, example, we go to a different state, Chennai or Tamil Nadu, Kerala. Like, we don't have to know all their language, Malayalam or Tamil, right? We just need some language. Where we have to go, how do you ask help, this kind of things, like survival language we call. That is what you should know. Like, there are certain concepts like user management, like how do you onboard new users, how do you offboard new, how do you restrict a user, file permissions, and how do you allow someone to allow permissions, and then how do you allow someone create a, I mean, allow permission, restrict permissions, access permissions, installations, how do you install a new software, how do you uninstall a software, right? Disk management, and how do you maintain disks, how do you see if the disk is available, how much is full. Process management, like when you are working your applications, every application, everything that you do in operating system is a process. Like, how do you verify those process, and how do you verify how much of how much of memory and CPU is consumed by the specific process, right? Those things is what you know. And then finally the troubleshooting, like looking into the logs, what are the log patterns, how do you search logs, is something that you should know. So apart from this, anything that you know, like the DNS server, file server, is an advantage. But these are something that we use on a regular basis. So these are the concept that you should be knowing. Adding to this, anything that you know Linux is added advantage.
Thank you, sir.
So these are all coming under Linux, right?
Yeah. So Farhat, yes, Linux, we are learning Linux first. The concepts that I told now, we will be talking about them in the initial classes, and then we'll get into the actual DevOps sessions.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? Okay, then if no questions, guys, we will end the session for today. And hope you guys enjoyed the session and I am able to answer all the questions that you have. And let me know if you have any questions. I can talk about it, or else we can end the session for today and see you all on Monday. That is tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.